Hi, and welcome to New God Sunday School. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee. And coming soon, I'm the curator, editor, and remixer of Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, starring Adam Starr and the Solar Legion, which is a new comic that is currently available for pre-order in the Diamond Previews catalog from Image Comics. And you can find the pre-order links for all of those books in the show notes below. So we're talking about the super escape artist Mr. Miracle in Mr. Miracle number 10. You've never met a more fantastic opponent or a more escape-proof trap, Mr. Miracle. A complete fourth world death defier, the Mr. Miracle to be. So the Mr. Miracle to be was the title that was teased at the end of Mr. Miracle number 9, Hyman, and now we get to read that story. This is the second version of this cover. Jack Kirby did an original version, and either he or DC were unhappy with it, and so he did this version instead. I'm assuming it came from within the office, for one reason or another, suggesting changes. I like this cover a lot. It really spoke to me when I saw it. This is, I remember seeing this in the back issue bins, and it was a little pricey. It might have been like $6 or something, and I kind of had my eye on it and eventually got it. Yeah, the cover really spoke to me, and I'm sure it spoke to Mike Barron and Steve Rude when they made their Nexus comic, because Jack Kirby has one of these flying head guys in here, and the comic Nexus has like a whole planet of them. So here it is, the Mr. Miracle to be. It's got this bouncy title lettering that feels very like 60s or 70s. It actually feels a bit like the Fantastic Four logo, the way the letters are kind of, bouncing around there. And so Boom Tube, a great plot device, a great comic book idea. And so you never know what's going to pop out of the Boom Tube. And so this is how we start the story. Mr. Miracle, Big Barda, and the Female Furies, after their adventures on Apocalypse, now pop out of the Boom Tube in a random location, not the location they were trying to get to. Edited, written, drawn by Jack Kirby, inked and lettered with slick, smart strokes by Mike Royer. And yeah, it looks great. It's a great looking issue. They show up, they don't know where they are. Explosions go off. A cannon pops up and starts shooting at them. Mr. Miracle gets right under it as fast as he can to disarm it. Now it's pointed right between his eyes. He's got to disarm this thing or he is toast. And of course, he's all about split second saves. And then some guys come up from below. They look like the sort of Apocalypse heavies you would see in previous issues, with those kind of big like fur hats, those big sort of squarish hats. But this is not a foe from Apocalypse, as we've seen in pretty much every issue except issue 1. This is a member of like an international terrorist organization that's operating here in secret. Lots of action in this issue. It just kind of keeps moving and moving. Lots of fighting. A lot closer to sort of like a standard superhero comic. Obviously, like the action scenes are incredibly well done, and it moves along at a good clip, and there's, some imaginative ideas. But yeah, it kind of has more in common with Jack's Marvel work than the stuff he'd been doing previously, particularly the issue right before this. The issue right before this, the comic reaches a fever pitch, firing on all cylinders. And then here, this feels like a palate cleanser, a sort of, change of pace. You can't keep making one thing more intense than the other. You need to kind of, give it a little bit of time to simmer before you, ramp up to your next big event. But still a lot of fun. He goes down this elevator, and then here he meets the guy from the cover, who I don't think has really any other name other than the Head. Darkseid and company haven't been completely banished from the comic yet. He still talks about Darkseid. And then we got this great splash page of, the sort of bad guy's lair and their doomsday device, their orbital plague bomb that they're going to use to hold the planet hostage. It's Jack Kirby's version of like a James Bond movie, but we're going straight to that scene where James Bond discovers the bad guy's hideout and the big elaborate death device. And so he's walking with this head who is the first successful brain transplant. His body was dying, so they took his brain and transplanted it into a synthetic head, a head that's made out of cells, organic cells, but synthetically grown. A side effect of just being a head is that he has like incredible mental powers, telepathy and telekinesis, what Baron and Root eventually used in Nexus. Steve Root is one of the biggest Kirby fans on Earth, so I mean, it's no accident. I'm sure he's talked about this. And so we cut to the female Furies, who are sort of stunned and in this glass cage. And they mention it a little bit. They hint at it a little bit in the letters column. This issue feels like it's, kind of like a backdoor pilot for the Female Furies solo series, Big Barda and her Female Furies, which Kirby was working on. So it seems like this, and in that they were going to fight more of sort of this like global terrorist organization as opposed to the forces of Darkseid, the forces of Apocalypse. Mad Harriet, with her claws that pop out, her metal claws that pop out of her knuckles that say "Snick." She really is, the mother of Wolverine. Like this predates Wolverine, predates all that stuff, predates the claws, the Snicket. And yeah, it's Snick here, not Snicket. But, a couple issues previous, Dassad's sister, Bernadette, her sword makes the Snicket sound when it is deployed. So, you take Bernadette's Snicket sound effect and combine it with Mad Harriet's claws and sort of wild demeanor, and you get a prototype for Wolverine. In the comic creator community of the time, all eyes were on Jack Kirby, and everybody was taking notes. And so Stampa, after Mad Harriet cuts a trail in that thick, transparent material, Stampa kicks it out, and now they're free. And then they find a secret agent who's been sent there to infiltrate this, and he's like, hey, we're on the same side. And who knows, maybe this guy would have been an ongoing character in, Big Barda and the Female Fury solo series. Part of Jack Kirby's proposal was that there'd be sort of like a secret agent who they'd sort of run into, kind of like a Steve Trevor. This guy's name is Mike McCracken, and he's very touchy-feely, very flirty, very smarmy. Perhaps, he's not British, but perhaps he's a commentary on James Bond, Jack Kirby's commentary on James Bond. But Big Barda does not take kindly to this guy's approach. And Mad Harriet is, she wants to get her hands on him. And then, before that gets to go anywhere, the bad guys are back shooting. Like I said, a lot of action this issue, not a lot of depth that we've had in the previous issues, but a lot of action. And death traps. Mr. Miracle gets stuffed into this sort of MRI machine. They have a poisonous gas pumped into it. And all that comes out is a bunch of empty chains. And then, surprise, here he is, fresh as a daisy, grabs Mr. Head, is holding him hostage. But, you can't, this guy is not one to be trifled with. He gives Mr. Miracle a mental blast, and now he's knocked unconscious. But Lashina comes to the rescue. Mr. Head continues, puts Scott in the orbital plague bomb, the OPB, but then he's shocked when he himself is sort of, magnetically or gravitically, attached to this rocket. It's not the first time, not the last time that Mr. Miracle will go up in a rocket death trap. Now you see him, now you don't. Mr. Miracle wasn't in there. He tells Barda, I merely took control. That's what I always count on when you give me cause to worry. And so the plague bomb is up in orbit, explodes harmlessly. Mr. Miracle gives a sort of rushed explanation of, how he did the trick. It doesn't have the panache of his explanations in previous issues. It seems, kind of dashed off. And in the past, he would be very sort of cagey about it and say, maybe I might have done this, maybe I might have done that. Here, he's just like, oh yeah, that's how I did it. A magician does give away his secrets. And now they go to the lab where the scientists have been trying to figure out the makeup of Barda's mega rod, but it's like, carrying him all over the place. She throws a big piece of machinery that blocks the door. Very cool stuff. And this super spy guy is setting this place up to blow. And they warn this guy that he better get out of there. It's called X latitude. Kirby always likes the letter X. X latitude's about to blow up. This guy thanks them for the break. And now they teleport out of there via mega rod. And then the super spy and then this guy and maybe, whatever other stragglers are in this plane with, the nuclear explosion going off on the island. Kind of like the last panels of Fantastic Four #1. Kirby likes, ending a story with a boom. And we get a nice little epilogue. Lonely Oberon, keeping hope alive, wondering if he'll ever see Barda and Scott again. He holds on to his hope, but he knows it might be a fool's hope. And then there's a ring at the door. He goes down there, and we get a surprise entrance, some soap opera stuff. It's Ted Brown back from the dead. Thaddeus Brown's son has been traveling the world, and he's back. Now, in Mr. Miracle #1, they said that Ted died in Korea, in the Korean War. But there's no mention of this yet, but letter writers do mention it in subsequent issues, and there is a story where that plot point is addressed. But right here, it's not. Oberon says he's been trying to get a hold of him for a while, and that he found sort of the perfect act for him to represent, because he's I'm a good public relations man, but I've somehow never found the right talent to manage. Oberon says, for a while I had 2 likely candidates for you, but somehow they've gone too. And then boom, there's a noise from upstairs. They go up to investigate. Now that's what I call a cast. Oberon, good friend, you're a better sight than a multiple-barreled, cosmic-controlled planetary howitzer. So we have this happy reunion. And now, Ted, this is Scott Free and Big Barda, and they're just what you asked for. Eureka, we're in business. It's true, they're in business. But what a business it turns out to be. Life and death set to music. Mr. Miracle, Big Barda and her female furies, and a force so malignant and evil that it threatens more than just the greatest show off Earth. And so this is sort of a segue into the direction the series is going to go. From this point onward, it's going to move by degrees away from the big overarching, apocalypse war into, just sort of being a standard superhero comic, but with the gimmick of they're trying to put on, some kind of, super stunt show, some kind of super escape artist show, and all of them are going to be actors in it. They're going to sort of head more in that direction. We never actually get to see the show. We never get to that point. This is kind of like one of those like behind the scenes of showbiz kind of series. We know it doesn't go on long enough for that. We only really get that in the later revivals of this series. But yeah, the apocalypse stuff goes away, and to the detriment of the series. It's it kind of for me, it's a little bit sad. Reading some of these stories, not so much this one. This one, feels it's not up to the standards of previous issues, but it feels like maybe this could have been, a breather, a palate cleanser, and then you could go back into the, heavy stuff. But they never really get back into the heavy stuff until the final issue. At this point, Kirby's getting word, as with the other issue 10s, he's getting word that the comics aren't performing the way the company wants them to, and he better figure something out fast if he wants them to stick around, if he wants to reverse that trend. And then when New Gods and Forever People get canceled, and then Mr. Miracle gets all the cool stuff cut out of it, basically. I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and I'm the editor, curator, remixer of Jack Kirby's Star Warriors starring Adam Starr and the Solar Legion. All of those books are available for pre-order by following the pre-order links in the show notes below. I'll see you next time for New Gods Sunday School.